according to the provincial policy statement. And based on that and the analysis that I did, there's enough commercial space either developed or planned. And when I say planned, that's basically approved by the county council, but not yet built to meet the needs or the 20-year planning period. So the policy for retail market studies that are in the plan at this point, they're in the plan for Norfolk Mall, they're in the plan for other shopping center type developments of certain size or commercial developments. I think generally over 3,000 meters, which is just over 30,000 square feet. It requires a retail market study. That is to protect the existing commercial areas in the community. That would include the downtown commercial areas, and would also include the existing commercial developments on the Queensway and other areas of the county.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Nothing further? I lost my page here for a minute.
Chairman, do you need a motion?
Yes.
I would move the recommendation in the report.
Okay. Further questions? Do you want to read it for me? Because right now I've misplaced my... Okay, go ahead. Councilor Black has moved.
Councillor Black has moved that the Grow Norfolk 5-year official plan review draft policy report DCS 1735 be received as information, and that public input has been received and considered as part of this decision, and further that staff continue with the 5-year Norfolk County official plan review project by consulting with council in a special council meeting on May 18th, consulting with the public and various interest groups until May 25th, and then bringing a report to council on June 6th with the community's comments and responses.
Any further questions? If not, all those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to page 354, staff report DCS 1734, review of Norfolk County zoning bylaw for exterior side yard setbacks in residential type 1 R1 zone to residential type 3 R3 zone. Go ahead. What we got? We're waiting for the change. Change the guard. Go ahead, Matt. Are you taking that?
Yep. Thanks very much. Norfolk County has been approached by the local Home Builders Association with a request to look at our zoning bylaw to amend our exterior side yard setback requirements for residential zones R1, R2, and R3. Currently, the zoning bylaw permits an exterior side yard setback, a minimum, that is, of 6 meters. So you might wonder what is an exterior side yard setback. In case you don't know, it's the lot line that abuts a street other than the front lot line of a corner lot or the rear lot line of a through lot. This exterior side yard does play a role in quite a few of our residential areas. It provides additional amenity space for corner lots. It allows for more options for where you place your driveway. And it also allows for a larger view shed for street line visibility. We have had, in the past 3 years, 17 applications through our Committee of Adjustment requesting a reduction in that exterior side lot setback. And we've also had, from a more comprehensive standpoint, zoning bylaw amendments requesting the same type of setbacks within a larger subdivision. So as an example, the Yin subdivision up in Waterford allows an exterior side yard setback of 3 meters. What we've done with this request is we've gone out and looked to see what other rural municipalities are doing. And generally what we see is that Most of them have the same requirements as we do. Some do permit a reduced exterior side yard setback of 4.5 meters, but generally where they do permit that reduction, they have no exceptions for the front yard setback. And the idea behind this provision is to allow for enough space to park a car legally within one of those yards. So what we've done is we've provided council with a few options to look at and listed the pros and cons of each. So option one is to maintain status quo, and that is to have a front yard setback of 6, but an exterior side yard setback of 6 meters as well. Again, what this does is it provides lots of amenity space, the driveway location options, it maintains the character of the subdivision. There's no tunnel vision, and so what I mean by that is if you start reducing that side yard setback, the house is going to get closer to the street and it starts to create a bit of a tunnel. There's more clear sight lines and allows for appropriate parking standards. Option 2 looks at reducing it by about 1.5 meters, so it would take it down to 4.5 meters. So again, there's pros and cons here. One of the pros is that it's the middle ground for a building envelope size. It still maintains the character of most subdivisions, and it does maintain sight lines. It's not the most optimal, but it does maintain them. The con, of course, would be that it potentially limits second dwelling units. And when I say that, I mean that right now in our zoning bylaw, we allow accessory apartment units in a number of different residential zones. With those accessory units, there are parking requirements. So as soon as you start reducing or limiting the area in which you can park, you start putting the same type of limitations on those units. Another con is that it limits driveway location options, and lastly, there's a reduced yard amenity space. Option 3 looks at what has been requested. So it's an exterior side yard of 3 meters. This does give the builder optimal space for the size of the house, but there are a number of cons that come with that too. Same thing, it limits secondary dwelling units, it limits driveway locations, reduces overall lot amenity space, the sight lines can become a bit of an issue. There's a lack of character. It doesn't really fit in with a lot of the subdivisions that are already developed in the county. There's a potential traffic implications, and then we start to get that tunneling effect within the subdivision. So we've taken a look at what other municipalities have done. We've looked at the general character of our existing subdivisions, and we've done our research to see generally what an exterior side yard setback's purpose is and really what function it serves. We've also had a chance to sit down with the Home Builders Association and go over this report in a bit of detail. And I think they've provided an email to council. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. They do agree with staff that perhaps it's not intelligent to apply this 3-meter reduction to all of the county, and they are requesting that it only be applied to new development. Respectfully, this request would be very challenging to do in our zoning bylaw. It's very challenging to do a blanket zoning amendment for just new development. So with this in mind, planning staff are recommending option 1, and that is to maintain the current provisions of a 6-meter exterior side yard setback in all of those zones, with the idea that we still will allow for flexibility. There's still the idea that a developer could go to the Committee of Adjustment and get a minor variance for these exterior side yard setbacks. And more importantly, if the developer knows from the outset of the development that they would like to have a reduced exterior side setbacks for an entire subdivision, when we get those applications, it would be at that time that we could, through a zoning bylaw amendment, apply that to the entire development. The benefit there is that the entire development has the same character. Everybody who's moving into the subdivision has the same sort of lot fabric. And it's known that, when you're going into that subdivision, you know what you get. It's hard then to try to implement something like that in an older subdivision. It just disrupts the character and the flow of the lotting fabric in those areas. So we are recommending to council that you choose option 1. And I think that's it for me. If there's any other questions, let me know.
Mayor Luke.
Thank you, Chairman Geisens, and Matt, thank you for this report. I'm at the top of page 356. This is page 3 of the report. I want to just talk a little bit about Yin's subdivision. Are you saying that the Yin subdivision in Waterford, all of the corner lots, that subdivision have an exterior side yard setback of 3 meters?
Through the chair, that's my understanding.
Every one. And, if I may, and I know it's question time for staff, but surprisingly, I find when I go into that subdivision at Yin's, I find it sort of lots of light, lots of space, maybe little larger lots. I personally, I think it's one of the nicest developments in the county because not just, there are other places that have quality homes, absolutely, all over the county, but I don't know. I always feel that's very spacious, in my opinion. So what I'm hearing, Mr. Chair, through you to Matt, is that you wouldn't recommend that we go and change the exterior side yard setback from 6 to 3 meters in our zoning bylaw requirements, but you would look at the time if phase of a subdivision came in. That's the time that the builder or the person could, if they don't know, be asked, what would you like for exterior side yards? Would you like 6 meters or would you consider 3? And then everything would be similar in that subdivision because often different builders build, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. And in a lot of cases, there's good urban design principles for having that reduction in certain circumstances, but it's something that I think we would want to look at on an individual basis. Each development sort of would be unique then.
I'm leaning that way to give, Mr. Chair, the developer the option of having that throughout the subdivision. One side of me says, I certainly understand where the builders are coming from. There's no question that that's a benefit to the builders and the way they design and do things. So one side of me says, I understand the builders, and I understand that Norfolk County, we're probably, most of us were off the farm, if I can use that term affectionately. We like things not built this close together, and yet I recognize compared to provincial standards in a lot of the urban areas, we are certainly spoiled with the space we have in our subdivisions. So and then I'm thinking, I like the layout that you showed up there that is on page 358 that very clearly shows you the difference. And if we, had those 3 diagrams, sort of the flip on the right-hand side to show the street and the, I call the 3 meter, 4.5 meter, 6 meter, 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 foot side yards on the corners. I'm a little bit leery, Mr. Chair. I'm debating. I should shut up. I'll just be quiet.
Councillor Height.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to planning, you mentioned there's 17 minor variance applications, but this is since 2014, so it's not really that pressing of a matter. Now, what do they cost, the minor variance? How much do they cost for someone to get it done?
Through the chair, it's a little over $1,000.
1,100?
It's something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it also mentions that there's a 1 meter to 3 meter was where it was in between. Is there a certain spot? Do you think you would take care of more of these if it was only a 4.5 meter side yard setback?
Through the chair, we generally see it's usually a variance between 1 meter to up to a maximum of a meter and a half. We generally didn't support the request to go to 3. Usually we would work with the builder or developer to try to go to 4.5. And in the past, that's what our Public Works department has also supported.
Okay, so with these minor variants, were any of them done for an entire subdivision, or was it just single homeowners coming in and?
Through the chair, generally when it's a minor variance, it would be for one lot. Where it would be for an entire subdivision, we would work with the developer through the zoning bylaw amendment stage, and that would be at the time of the subdivision application. So it would be looked at much more comprehensively. We would look at sort of the roads, the sight lines, everything within that subdivision to make sure it all made sense.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brunton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've looked at this, and really, that boils down to what size of house you put on a corner lot, doesn't it? So, you know, if they were to, at the plan of subdivision stage, make the corner lots a little bigger, that allows for a bigger house with the same setback. Personally, and that could be accomplished versus asking them whether they want a different side yard, just make the lot a little bigger, and because they seem to want bigger houses today, a lot of them in these subdivisions. But, you know, if you look at 6 meters and you put a sidewalk in now on the property line or at the property line or 6, whatever distance they use off the property line, it doesn't give you much room to park a car. It's only about 18, 19 feet, isn't it? Something like that. There's a lot of subdivisions where you see 2 cars parked from the house or the garage to the property line. I don't know, it's unfortunate maybe, but I'd rather just see at the time the plan of subdivisions is drafted that the corner lots are a little bigger, and that allows for the bigger house. So leave it at that.
So what's the, I haven't got a mover to this. Councillor Wells.
Question, Mr. Chair. If we leave it the way it is now, and the developer could ask for some relief when he or she is planning the subdivision, am I correct?
You know, through the chair, that's what we would hope for. And in fact, we have a very great new system, our pre-consultation system, that we would use to ask those questions to the developer. So when they would come in with that application, we would have a chance to sort of pre-screen it before it becomes a real application. And at that time, we would say to them, you know, show us the lots, show us these things. And by the way, have you thought about this?
And that is option 1, am I correct?
Yes, that's option 1, and that's a free process.
Mr. Chair, I will move option 1, as recommended by the staff.
Mayor Luke.
I'll speak to the motion on the floor, and I would just ask this question through again to Matt. I think I got it straight, but I want to be sure. Through you to Matt. Matt, if we approve this motion, what you're saying is that a developer, Councillor Wells is a developer, when he comes to planning to have his plan of subdivision approved, correct? That staff will then, at no extra cost, give the developer the option, do you want a 3-meter side yard, exterior side yard? Do you want a 4.5? Is that where we would go with this, so that it would be up to the developer, and then a subdivision could be then approved with as small as a 3-meter exterior side yard? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, through the chair, the process would be to go through a zoning bylaw amendment to apply that reduction to the entire subdivision, and we would yes, make those suggestions, or you know, to field those questions through our pre-consultation process.
And the cost of that would be for the entire subdivision plan, through the chair, roughly around $1,100 for the whole subdivision, correct?
It would be a little more expensive because it's a zoning bylaw amendment and not a variance, but it's
$1,600.
it's not much more.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Where does it say in there, in that recommendation, that you will work with the developer? Because right now, not seeing it, I'm not voting for it. I like the 4.5. I don't need a big yard. I don't want to cut grass. And in houses where seniors are, they don't want to cut grass. You could jam up houses right beside each other with a walkway, and they'd be happy.
Through the chair, that's just part of our good customer service and part of our pre-consultation process.
So I ask again, where is it in the motion?
Through the chair, council can add that to option one, but it would be nothing different than what we're doing today.
Mayor Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me speak second time to the motion. It will be the last. Is it fair to say, through you to Matt or Pam, whoever likes to answer questions, that if in a subdivision, Councillor Height raised a good point, if I wanted a smaller lot, would that not be then that I could get that on an interior, not a corner lot, but a lot that isn't on the corner? Is it under these requirements or zoning setback requirements we have currently, if option one stays, that it's the corner lots that have the larger, because the other lots, unless it's on a corner, don't have the exterior. They only have, what is it, 4 feet? I'm sorry, I don't go to metric, but 1 meter?
It's okay. I think you've, through the chair, I think you've answered your question, but this only applies to corner lots. Right now, in those zones, the residential zones, the interior side lot line setback is 1.2 meters. So it's much tighter, and
4 feet.
that requirement is there for drainage and swales and that
So
sort of
we'll
thing.
make sure that Councillor Height gets the interior lot, okay. Not, make sure he knows the difference between corner.
Okay, got my...
Councillor Columbus.
So if we're looking at the 6-meter limit here, the status quo, that's the lot line to the building, 6 meters. But then there's usually another 4 meters or so to the curb, right, Matt?
Through the chair, it would depend, I think, on what type of road it would be and what the right-of-way, the road allowance is, but yeah, it's probably dependent on the type of road. But generally, yeah, there would be more space between the lot line and where the road would begin.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a motion moved by Councillor Wells that staff report DCS 17-34 be received as information, and that Norfolk County Council direct community planning staff to use option 1, maintain the current provision of a 6-meter exterior side yard, my tongue's getting tangled, setback in the residential type 1, 2, and 3 zones. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried. Moving on to the next one, which will be staff report DCS 1738, methadone clinic follow-up. Who's got that one? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Geisens. Just a quick report. Council may remember on March 14th, Council directed staff to investigate preparing an interim control bylaw to place a one-year hold upon the establishment of methadone clinics in the downtown areas in order to allow staff time to study the issues further. However, on April 12th in 2006, Council also passed an interim control bylaw for adult entertainment establishments. And the recent adult entertainment interim control bylaw applied to all the lands in Norfolk County. So council should also be aware that section 38.7 of the Planning Act clearly prohibits any further interim control bylaws for a period of 3 years after such a bylaw ceases to be in effect. So therefore, an interim control bylaw to place a one-year hold on the establishment of methadone clinics is not appropriate at this time. So this report alternatively outlines to Norfolk County Council that planning staff are still recommending or are willing to detailed policy review and report back to Council at our earliest opportunity. And that would again consider the zoning related to methadone clinics, and we're happy to answer any questions at this time.
Councillor Height and Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to planning. When we passed the first one, the first interim control bylaw, I believe that was to kick out all the strippers. Did we know at that point that you couldn't pass another one?
Through you, Chair Geisens, I don't believe that Council nor staff provided that information to Council.
So then how did we figure it out this time around?
Again, through you, Councillor Geisens, to Councillor Height, when that recommendation and direction was provided to staff, it was our opportunity to look into it, and there is a very clearly in the Planning Act, it outlines that there is only a 3-year opportunity So now we're bringing that information back to you.
That's unfortunate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Black.
Yes, well, I agree. It is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. But still, the motion does, I think, allow us to continue to direct staff to bring back some information on the methadone clinics. And I do believe, there could be a positive outcome with this whole process. I've been hearing, good and bad, and some people upset on either side. But I think this is an opportunity that will allow us to maybe communicate better with the methadone clinics and maybe identify some of the problems, get the police together with the downtowns, with the clinics, with planning, and work out some potential solutions. So, and in the meantime, educate people, because this is a benefit to everyone. It's a benefit to society that we get people off of an addictive drug, but at the same time, it would be nice if we could find a better location. But I'd move the recommendation in their report, and I guess I'm speaking to it already. Sorry about that. In support of it, if you'd receive the motion and just carry on and say that I think we can still have a good outcome, even though we might not be able to have the temporary bylaw initiated. So, thank you.
Further? No hands? I have a motion by Councillor Black that staff report DCS 1738 follow up to Council's direction to implement an interim control bylaw that will place a one-year hold upon the establishment of methadone clinics in the downtown area in order to allow staff time to study the issues further, and that the community planning complete a policy review and report back to council on options for consideration of zoning related to methadone clinics. All those in favor? That is carried. We have I don't know, do we need to have these done today? So we have one more staff. Is it going to take a while? I don't know. I guess my question is, I'll do the last one and then we'll talk about what we're going to do. If we can take a break then. Is that it? Everybody in agreement? We'll finish off and then, okay? All right. Staff report FS 17-18, tax sales extension agreement. I believe that's you, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a quick routine report for council when an extension agreement presents itself as an option to a taxpayer in an arrears situation. Excuse me. Part 11, Section 378 of the Municipal Act permits the county to enter into a tax sale extension agreement to extend the redemption date for the tax sale process based upon the negotiated conditions contained in the agreement. Staff feels the terms are reasonable and have given consideration to the financial circumstances of the property owner by providing repayment terms that should lead to a successful redemption of the property. Staff recommends that the provisions of the proposed extension agreement as outlined in the report be approved and that a bylaw authorizing such agreement be presented to council for approval. If there are any questions, I would be very happy to answer them.
Councillor Columbus.
So moved. The recommendation.
Okay. Councillor Columbus has moved that staff report FS 17-18 tax sales extension agreement for 331049200413800 be received as information, and that the proposed tax extension agreement between Norfolk County and the owner of the referenced property be approved, and further that a bylaw authorizing execution of tax sales extension agreement be presented to council for approval. All those in favor? Okay, do you want to take a 10-minute break and then we'll go in camera, or what do you want to do? 10 minutes? Okay. Okay, so that's the next one I need. quartered. Okay, we are going in camera. The committee convened in closed session at 8:04 to discuss two matters pursuant to Section 239B of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, as the subject matter pertains to personal information about identifiable individuals, including employees of the municipality or local board. I need a mover. Councillor Wells. All those in favor? We are in camera. Yeah, I know.